Hello, and welcome to Sons of Ours podcast. I am Deacon Tony Davis, and I'm here in my room with
regular Seminarian Jacob Machado.
So
Yes.
Is that a little too weird to say here in my room?
No, we are lucky to be housemates this year, Tony and I, which means you would think we'd have recorded 30 podcasts already, but this is the first one of the semester, almost 3 weeks in now.
Yeah,
almost 4 weeks in.
3 weeks in. It's been hard keeping up with all the parties and schoolwork and apostolate and everything like that, so that's why we have not recorded. We apologize. We are super grateful. All summer we tried. All summer we were like, we need to record something this week. We need to do something. You know, there's people texting us, telling us, hey, when's the next podcast coming out? But it didn't happen.
We did 2 while we were in quarantine right before the ordinations. We had plans for like 6.
Mm-hmm.
We did 2.
Yeah.
And then we were nowhere near each other for the summer.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, but thankfully, people kept texting us or asking us, when are you guys done? Are you doing this still? And
did the band break up?
And Yoko Ono arrived, but we kicked her aside.
That's true.
So yeah, we're back. We're back in the semester. Very excited to be living at Christ the King House with Tony Davis, Deacon Tony Davis, and it's a great house to be in. And Tony and I have known each other for 4 years now in seminary. Been hanging out for the last, we'll call it good friends for maybe 2.5.
There you go. I'll take that.
And that's on me, not on him.
Yeah, Jacob was too cool for school.
Yeah, too cool for Deacon Tony. Okay. But every time guys move into new houses, inevitably there's some people you don't know. And sometimes that's because they're from a different diocese, or they came out of SY, or they, you just never talked to them before because they're at a different house. This year, or today, our guest is one of those guys who's coming out of SY and is living with us at the Christ King House. Welcome, Nathan.
Hello.
Perfect, Nathan. That's awesome. So, yeah, Jacob and I were talking, Nathan, and we told Nathan about this a little earlier, but Jacob and I were talking, like, what are we supposed to record with the current COVID situation, with the political unrest, with racial tensions around the country? How are we supposed to address all that? What are we supposed to do as Sons of Ours podcast to stay relevant, stay, connected with people and what they want to hear? And then it kind of just dawned on us.
Ignore it all.
Burn it all.
And go back to the roots.
Yep. Not the band, even though they're my favorite.
But back to interviewing seminarians about their lives, their story, what brought them here.
Because ultimately that's what this podcast is all about, is to bring people into our lives, Nathan. Mm-hmm. So we're super stoked that you were willing to come share a little bit about yourself here today. Because, like Jacob said, we've known each other for a long time, but we don't know much about you other than that you're a killer ukulele player and you write hilarious songs. That's about all we know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to just kind of dive in, give us a little bit of your story, man, so that people can come into the seminary.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I guess the story of kind of how I came to seminary, how I ended up where I am today, of course, like most people's stories, begins at the beginning, which is birth. So I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm one of 6 siblings. I'm the 4th in line. My oldest brother is Dominic, and then I have an older sister, Katie, whose name I later found out was not actually Katie.
Wow.
That's like family drama from the get-go.
Yeah, I know, right? Then an older sister, Rachel, then myself, then a younger sister, Anna, and a younger brother, Ben.
Is that the official shout-out to all of them when they listen to this episode?
Yes, they probably won't be listening to this episode.
At least he's honest.
Yep.
So Phoenix, Arizona is a pretty interesting place. I learned how to draw a cactus before I could draw a tree. For at least until I was 5, I thought that goggles were used for dust storms, not swimming. There's lots of pools in Phoenix, but we didn't have one. So whenever a dust storm blew up, my siblings and I would throw on our goggles and get on our trikes and go ride around in the dust storm.
What a different life.
It's like Mad Max tricycles.
Yeah. Mad Max Phoenix Road.
Exactly. Yeah, so kind of a different thing. You know, you've got 2 seasons, summer and heat stroke. But it was good. When I turned 7, our family actually left Phoenix and moved up to Flagstaff, Arizona, which is 2 hours to the north. It sits at a lovely 7,000 feet elevation. It's right at the bottom of the San Francisco peaks. So it's just a totally different place. It's like a mini Denver.
They get snow there.
Yeah.
It's a ski area. It's absolutely beautiful.
Great fishing.
Shout out to Northern Arizona University. I don't actually know anybody there, but I almost went. And
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh. Well, you'd be going right in my hometown there. So
That's like where the hipsters who don't want to go to Boulder, they go to Flagstaff.
Yeah.
conservative hipsters.
Yeah, conservative hipsters. Praise God. We're not talking about politics, Nathan.
Sorry. Yeah, so I think it started when I was actually 5 years old. My parents...
You're called to the priesthood?
Yes.
Wow.
My parents went to a clay shop and they made a chalice and paten because they knew I liked to play mass with my siblings. That was something I think my older brother started. And so for my 5th birthday, they gave me that little set. I still have that. Not here with me. It's at their house.
I do have to ask, what'd you use for the hosts and what'd you use for the wine?
Well, the wine was usually water because
Okay.
we didn't really have juice growing up.
I used vinegar
Ooh, that's
whatever
creative.
circular cereal I could find in the pantry.
Am I the only seminarian who never played mass when he was a kid?
Probably.
Yeah.
Dang it.
We used Nilla wafers.
Oh, good choice.
But when I could get them, I used Necco wafers. Do you know those?
Those like the
They're like
off-brand?
no, they're this old candy that you can get at Cracker Barrel.
Oh, crap.
They're like a weird. I don't even know how to describe them. They're wafers.
Cool. All right, so you used
anyways.
Necco wafers.
Yeah. So played mass growing up with my siblings, and we moved to Flagstaff. And I kind of want to view this whole story through the eyes of like receiving things that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And sometimes definitely like resisting those things. So one of those things was just a change of friend group.
Mm-hmm.
The family, you may be acquainted with the Willises. Thomas Willis was in seminary here for a while.
Yep.
So we kind of grew up together, but when we moved to Flagstaff, that of course became much more difficult. We didn't see each other as often. So initially I was kind of opposed to moving to Flagstaff. But I'm definitely not opposed to it anymore after 14, 16 years, however long. Anyways, so it was actually in middle school when the next kind of event happened in my spiritual life. In 6th grade, I went on my first retreat just through Edge and experienced, I had a moment in front of the Eucharist in adoration that was just very moving and kind of awakened me to the fact that I could have a relationship with God.
Who would have thought?
I know, right? And it's just, he's not just out there. He's like really present. So that was very cool. But I kind of got the idea in my head that like the retreat high, like that's what it was about. And that was like the pinnacle. It was like, oh, I'm holy now. So just a quick side note is we were all homeschooled. I don't know how my mom did it. All 6 of us homeschooled all the way through high school. And so there were 2 things happened because of that. In Flagstaff, the only homeschool group up there is a Protestant homeschool group.
Mm-hmm.
So we were one of 2 Catholic families, and we didn't really know the other Catholic family who were in that group. So around those friends and that friend group, I was very much an outsider. And then at the same time, when I went to a youth group, middle school and high school, I was still an outsider because I didn't go to school with all those kids. So that made my family, like us siblings, really stick together quite a bit more, I think, in a really beautiful way. So in 7th grade, and this is I know I traced the call back to like 5th grade, or
5 years old.
Thank you, 5 years old. 5 years old.
5 years old.
But the call itself, I think, is really pinpointed in 7th grade when my parents sent me on another retreat, and it was an edge camp, so a week long, 6 days roughly. And I had been on 2 retreats at that point. And so the first one being that retreat high, the second one being like absolutely nothing. I just assumed that I had kind of switched my thinking and gone to the assumption that like experiences of God are one-time deals, and that's what you ride on for the rest of your life. This is just middle school thinking. And on the first night, I had an experience. The Lord gave me an experience when receiving the Eucharist, and that's when I really knew. He really inexplicably placed it on my heart to seek the priesthood.
Wow.
That year, my older sister, Katie, whose name I found out was actually Catherine, and Katie was a nickname, and I wanted to know what my real name was for like a year after that.
Absolutely.
But everyone was like, it's just Nathan. And I was like, I wouldn't take that for an answer. But anyways.
You're lying to me. I know.
I know I have a real name. Tell me what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so she discerned that year to enter the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist. And she was 16 years old.
Wow.
I was 13. And that was a very impactful thing for our family, because she was so young, and then my parents were open to it. And
God.
I was just beginning to actually seriously think about vocation. So her example and the fact that we were pretty close really kind of solidified in my mind, like, if God wants me to go that route towards the priesthood, that's what I need to focus on. So then from there all the way through high school, I was pretty much determined to go to seminary as soon as I could.
Wow.
And my parents were okay with that. And so it was just a matter of waiting for the Lord's timing, right? Because I had to wait to finish high school. So
Yeah.
So did you enter into college seminary right after high school?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. And so that was another one of those things that I kind of had to receive, was where I was going to be sent. Heard a lot of great things about this place, St. John Vianney, but also knowing that I would be going to college seminary at the Josephinum. So I went there, and a couple huge things for me was meeting some of my best friends there, who initially I absolutely despised. A really good example of how God throws us things and we can accept it or reject it. Just like I kind of have grown into accepting the call.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point in my life in college was those friends. Noah Minton is actually one of those. I met him in high school, and I absolutely despised him.
Yes.
And
Wow.
through one thing and another, we ended up in seminary the same year.
That's funny.
Together, same diocese. And eventually all the friends that we got close to over the first 2 years discerned out. And so junior year, I remember we had this realization of like, well, shoot, it's like just us. If we don't know each other, we don't know anybody.
I hated you, but you're my only friend now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're
No,
my only choice.
that was like exactly it.
That's
But
like every night at dinner when it's like, oh, I hate $2 Chuck, but it's my only choice, so I guess I'll drink it.
Drinking $2 Chuck again.
Yep.
yeah, so that's
And Noah is now here also with you at SJV.
Yep.
Yes. It was a big blessing that we got to go to a spirituality year together. We were hoping we'd be in the same house so you could see how far we've come.
Yeah.
But that was not the case. But yeah.
Incredible.
Coming into a new place, SJV, how was that transition? Because you're entering theology. You're getting a little bit more freedom in seminary. I mean, how are those kind of changes? And how have you grown and matured through formation?
Going back to like the acceptance thing is I've always been the middle child. And so I've always had to ride the wave and just kind of roll with whatever hit me. Like in high school, like half my friends were literally hand-me-down friends, or like they were the siblings of the friends of my older siblings. Yeah. And that's why we knew each other.
Hand-me-down friends.
I had no choice in this. You're what I got.
Yep. We've all been there.
I mean, that's how me and Tony started hanging out.
Yeah, it's kind of true, actually.
Our best friends left, and we just hung out.
Yeah.
That's very accurate.
Yeah, so going into college then was kind of just like, I have no idea what's going on. So it wasn't very different from my normal life. The biggest change for me into college was actually the academics, because as a homeschooler, I did a lot of academics, but I never had a lot of time pressure for my papers or morning classes.
Waking up.
Putting pants on before going to class.
Yeah, I know. So that was actually the biggest thing, was I learned how absolutely terrifying it is to take a test, because the very first actual like exam I took was freshman year in college.
Oh my gosh.
And so I just was like shaking going into that exam. I don't even remember which one.
Since you were homeschooled, you aced it.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that, but yes.
I mean, I was homeschooled until high school, so you know, we can bond on that. And but
that's awesome.
Go ahead, Tony.
Well, I was just saying, so speaking of shaking, I would like to address the elephant in the room
that nobody knew was in the room.
Yes,
but he's been hiding here.
He's been hiding. So, just to intro this, the first time I really ever saw or had an interaction with Nathan was last year on our seminary camping trip. So a year ago, I was in charge. It was the last day of the camping trip. Essentially, everyone was packed up and leaving, right? And it was super stressful time for me, being the guy in charge, making sure everyone's got a ride home, making sure all our gear gets packed away, this and that. Well, one of the vans doesn't start up, and so we have a dead battery. So 7 guys now need new vans, but other guys are already leaving, and I'm the only one there in charge. And so everyone, with the seminary, any big group, you got 80 people all telling you the same thing, all at the same time. And so I'm super stressed out trying to figure this out. And I walk past this van, and there's this, what I see as this kid there, this young SY guy, and he's jumping up and down, like slapping his feet against his back, and he almost kicks me. And so I just look at him, I go, "Stop doing that. That's weird," and walked away. Right? Well, that was Nathan. And then a week later, I'm in the chapel, and he's in the chapel, and he's like vibrating and shaking, and then just going back to normal. And then I look over at a guy from Phoenix, and I go, "Yo, does that guy have Tourette's? What's up with that guy?" And they go, "Yeah, actually." And I was like, "Oh, no." So, Nathan, publicly, I need to apologize to you. I had no idea. But if you'd mind telling us a little bit about that, and how that's maybe affected you and your vocation, affected how you have kind of matured. Because a lot of times when there's things that are different about us, they can either be a burden or a blessing. And so I didn't know if you could kind of dive into that a little bit as well.
Yeah, sure. It's okay if you call it a butt kick. That's what it is.
Kick.
I'm going to kick my own butt.
Oh, yes,
Senor butt kick.
Yeah, no one needs to kick my butt. I do it for me.
Yeah.
It's impressive. I walked out of my room, and he's walking down the hall with a cup of coffee in hand, and he jumps up in the air and kicks his butt and doesn't spill a drop of coffee. And I just looked at him like, dude, that's impressive.
Jeez, I can barely
I've had
put
a number
one
of
foot in front of the other.
a number of old people actually tell me how much they wish they could do that when I've done it before. On the rare occasion that I haven't been able to slip away for that particular tick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I was actually diagnosed when I was about 2.
Really?
Yeah, so I cannot remember ever not having it. So it's as normal and routine for me as breathing at this point. I mean, it's a little bit more frustrating at times than breathing is, of course, but but that's kind of it's one of those things I've just had to accept, because you're right. Some things can be like a burden, or they can be a blessing. And this one, I found to be more of a blessing. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out a way to let it help me get away with things, but
No.
I've definitely looked for that before, but that's just not really possible.
Yeah.
My brain's just running a blank though.
It's totally fine. Welcome to the afternoon. Yeah, because I mean, it seems like, so from the outside looking in, you twitch, you vibrate, your hands, your whole body sometimes, and then it's just like you said, it's as normal to you as breathing, so you're just back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever a time in your life like been self-conscious about that? Has that ever?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So there's certain tics that are more obnoxious, shall we say, than others. So for example, the flopping butt kick.
Yes.
Which
Butt kicking.
just for the audience, I guess the other part of that is also I like do this chicken wing thing where I slap my arms against my side really hard, and then I jump in the air and kick my butt. And so it's an extravagant display, to say the least, and it catches a lot of awkward glances when done in public. So I try to get out of view when I feel it coming.
So you feel it coming?
Yeah. So it's an interesting kind of phenomenon, I guess, from someone else's perspective, but it's kind of like I would describe it as needing to use the restroom. When it's coming. It's a lot faster than that, but you know when it's coming, and there is no feasible way for you to stop it, but you can delay it.
I see.
That actually is really interesting, because I was going to ask you if it was ever a concern for you going into ministry, like around the altar, because when I see you serving, I've never seen a time where like a tic came on unmanaged, and so I was wondering how that worked. But it seems like since you know it's coming, you kind of have ways to prep for it. But have you ever been? I mean, has that been a concern?
Oh yes. I'm more so of my siblings and parents than of me. There's a priest I know, Father Chad King in Phoenix, who I was very inspired by recently after joining seminary. He has a stutter. And I just told him one time, like, Father, if I may say so, I'm really impressed that you don't seem to be self-conscious about the stutter. You don't seem to, it doesn't mess you up at all. You're very open about it. I just wanted to say, like, I was very impressed by that. And he thanked me, and then he said something along the lines of, like, it's something that's part of me that I can't change, so I don't really need to worry about it. And so I was like, wow, that's very easy to apply to what I go through with Tourette's.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like managing tics and feeling them, so when I'm more stressed, they actually occur in greater frequency and intensity. So I go through, there's kind of a yearly cycle, right? So right around Easter, Christmas, like the holidays, like it starts to build and increase.
Because you really love Christmas.
Exactly. I get really excited. Or exam period if I'm just really stressed.
Yeah.
And then on a smaller scale, excuse me, on a smaller scale.
That wasn't a tick. That was just a burp.
Yeah, I don't have any audible vocal tics, but
Bummer.
oh no, trust me, it's not a bummer. You'd be clenching the pews during holy hour if I had one of those.
Yeah.
I had one when I was younger, and it drove my family absolutely berserk.
Really?
Yeah, I had to like crack my voice. It was like except actually cracking, I can't really do it anymore.
Yeah.
But, man, it was so frustrating.
So that's what puberty with Tourette's looks like. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so on a smaller scale, you can actually so like friends and family, like close friends and family can actually like gauge how I'm emotionally doing if they pay attention, well, especially during something like a holy hour, which they should not be paying attention to me then, but if they happen to be, or if I'm sitting right in front of them and I'm in a creaky pew or something, it's really hard to ignore.
Yeah.
You can actually, so they actually can gauge like if I'm stressed or not, or if I got enough sleep, because sleep, if I'm not well rested, that also increases it.
We've got a friend in the Archdiocese, Father Mason, who also has a stutter, and doesn't hide behind it, just kind of, it's part of it. And I know there's a lot of people who've been really just kind of impressed with that acceptance of the reality of what their life is, that it's not perfect. And you know, you have an external tick that shows that life isn't perfect. People without an external tick, myself, I get to put up a facade of the perfect, you know, everything's going great, and it's a total lie.
Yeah.
And so honestly, for me, seeing, you know, you around the house or seeing Father Mason, it's just inspiring to me to accept life, to accept freely, you know, what has been given, for better or for worse. And so have you had experiences where it's, you know, the Tourette's has actually been a bridge or a moment for a ministry?
I'm sure there have been very good moments of that. I can think of one moment in particular where a friend, he pointed out that it encouraged him to see me in chapel, like shaking and twitching, and to see that I, at least in this particular holy hour, I would just go right back to praying. And so he told me once that touched him. And that was really cool because, like, I didn't do anything to get Tourette's.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's, Jacob, I really liked what you said there. That's kind of what I was thinking about. Like, the confidence that comes from knowing you're a son or a daughter of God and that you're not in control is about one of the most important things for us to learn as Christians, right? Just to be confident that God created us for who we are. And a lot of times we think we're in control because I don't have, like Jacob, I don't have any external tics or problems other than my weird looks and the fact that I'm a total jerk sometimes. But that's the thing. That's the difference between me and you, is that I should be able to control that, so to speak. And that gets in the way of my relationship with God, me thinking I can control it, right? But then I meet people like you and Father Mason, and the utter confidence and humility in the confidence is what always sticks out to me. This just beautifully strong humility partnered with strong confidence in everything that is going on. It's like even last night, Nathan's abandoned by his partner, Ryan Mack, for dinner prep. And I walk in the kitchen, I'm like, Nathan, what the heck? And he goes, I got it. I'm fine. I'm just like, yeah, you do got it. Why are you so confident that you got it? That's incredible. You got it, you know? But it's just, once again, this humility paired with this confidence. And ultimately, that's what we're all shooting for as Christians. And so I'm super edified when I meet people that have something external or have come through prayer and wisdom of time to have the humility paired with confidence. Because I think that's something that most, millennials, most baby boomers even just have totally missed the ball on. Humility and confidence are not in opposition to each other, but actually have to be working together and have to be paralleled in the Christian life.
That's a really good insight.
And so
he is a deacon now. It's Grace of Orders.
Yes.
Solely Grace of Orders.
Exactly.
You should have heard his insights before he was ordained.
They sucked.
Podcast ratings were way down. But actually, I do have to say, for Ryan Mack's sake, because his parents do listen to the podcast.
That's why I did it.
He didn't blatantly abandon Nathan. He was driving through a snowstorm to pick up Archbishop from the airport
because he's a good son of the Father,
but still clearly abandoned Nathan.
Yes. I actually said this hoping Ryan would listen to that and be like, what?
Which is good, because we gave him a 2-minute pause before we corrected.
There you go. But yeah, I just think that's a super powerful thing, and I think that's something that we all need to analyze in our life,
in our personal life, because it manifests itself in all of the externals. All of the stuff that we mentioned at the beginning that we didn't want to talk about is just people trying to control the coronavirus, trying to control politics, trying to control whatever's going on. And it's like you're not actually really in control. Yeah. And if you can recognize first that even in your own interior formation, you're not really in control. Yeah. You've got to cooperate as a free acting person with God and what he's doing. But he's working. He's the instigator, and you receive. We need to stand in that Marian posture of receptivity. And we can be, afraid, and let God say, don't be afraid. And we can say, how's this going to happen? That doesn't make sense to me. And then he'll explain it. But we're receiving. We're not controlling. We're not saying, okay, God, yes, I'll do this, but here's the checklist, and here's how it's going to happen. And when we try and do that, all the discord starts to just pile up and pile up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just like, man, if I, as a son of God, desire to be unified with his will, that takes swallowing the pill that you're not in charge. It takes swallowing the pill that Mary actually is the pinnacle of what we should look to as Christians, not just this unrealistic expectation of humanity, which is what a lot of, I hate to say it, but like my parents' generation, not my parents, they're incredible people, I love them. But, that kind of generation of Catholicism, it kind of people stopped looking to Mary as the example. But ultimately, what did Mary do? She acknowledged that she was not in charge and that she was at the service of God first. Then she acknowledged that God was the principal mover. He was the one that set it into motion. He was the one that was in control. He was the one that would bring all things into fruition, right? And so her ascent, and we're talking about this in Mariology, and I hear Mariology is just moving into fundamental theology, which you two are in.
Yeah, basically.
But we really need to kind of renew not only our devotion to Mary, but our knowledge and our love and our theological understanding of what the weight that she has as an example for all of humanity. Truly. Thank you so much for listening. We hope to get back on track here. Micah and Ian are also going to be recording pretty soon. And so we thank you so much for listening. Thank you for support. Once again, you can email us. You can find us on the St. John Vianney Facebook page as well.
We're sorry for the poor hosting. We're glad we kind of could get out of the way so Nathan could tell his story. But we look forward to getting back in a groove for you guys very soon.
Yeah, so thank you so much. This has been the Sons of Ours podcast.
That is ours with an A.
This was the perfect opportunity to stop doing that.
Nope, it's never going to stop. All right, God bless you.